Bed Pans and Boogeymen. Where two nurses discuss nursing care, personal stories, paranormal experiences, and spiritual growth. Bed Pans and Boogeymen, yeah, we feeling fine. Heartbeat, keeping it in line. From cold blues to night hues, we making that climb. Oh baby, tune in, it's podcast time.
Disclaimer: this podcast represents the personal views of its hosts, Sheri and Precious. It is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not meant to give you medical advice. And before following any of the things that we suggest, please visit your doctor and discuss your care with him or her. Hello. Welcome to Bed Pans and Boogiemen, the podcast. My name is Sheri.
And my name is Precious, your host. Thank you for joining us.
So remember last time when we were talking about that donut hole where it was so sad because the elderly had to pay so much out of pocket, and then there was a point where nothing was covered for $1,200?
Yeah.
Well, good news.
What's good news?
It went away on January 1st, and now there's just a $2,000 cap per year on the medications for Medicare patients.
Oh, that's amazing, actually. I didn't know that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So they don't have to have that waiting time is what you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
So now I believe it is that Medicare covers the 80%, but after $2,000, their copays are covered.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Hey, I wonder if our talk helped. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. That would be some manifestation right there.
Right? So yay, something we talked about actually resolved. So that's so cool.
That is cool.
So today we wanted to talk about why we put the boogeymen in Bed Pans and Boogeymen.
Yep.
So Precious has been a paranormal investigator with her husband,
Mm-hmm.
and I have always sensed spirits and things. And since I've been a nurse, if you haven't heard the first podcast, I've been a nurse for over 33 years. And I've been with a lot of people when they've been passing over. How about you?
I've been with a few people. And honestly, even recently, I will say that I was with someone that passed away. And then we did kind of a little Scottish goodbye for him. And I could kind of feel and see some of the stuff there too. So we can definitely get into that a little bit later. But I've definitely have felt and more recently seen spirits for a long time now. And then as for just the paranormal investigation, I've done that just kind of like with my husband on the side for a few years too. We weren't really professional until a little bit later on, but before that, just going out into the forest and playing flashlight tag and seeing stuff, I guess.
And, when you're a nurse at the bedside and patients are passing, they tell you a lot of things. A lot of them see relatives or angels come to get them. It's very few times I've been at someone's bedside when they haven't been seeing people coming for them. And I even experienced that when my mom was passing. And we'll talk about that just a little bit later in this podcast. But it's very interesting. I've also had the opportunity to do what's called a chakra spread, which is a healing touch technique. And what you do is you start at the head and you reach into each of the 7 major chakras, and you're pulling them open. And you do that 3 times. And it's actually the only technique where you start at the head instead of at the feet. And at first it can feel really tight. And by the time you've done it that 3rd time, it's pretty relaxed. And if the person is conscious, you can visibly see them begin to relax, because it's not only good for when somebody's about to pass over, it's also good for life transitions like going through menopause or losing anybody close to you, or you know, any of those major life things that we go through.
What exactly is the cleansing for, though, during those times?
So if you think about it, we're all made of energy, and we have the chakras. And when somebody's about to die, if you can open all of the chakras as wide as you can get them, it helps their spirit release from their body.
So you're kind of opening their energy.
Right.
Okay.
You're open them. You're making them wide open. And like if I were doing it on somebody who wasn't dying, after I did that, I would sit and I would hold the light for them until they come back, because it can make you astral travel.
Oh, okay.
So that's something we could try. You're wanting to astral travel, so
absolutely.
that's something we could try. Is I could do a chakra spread on you, and then when you come back, we do some grounding techniques so that you're not out there the whole time, because it can make you feel really floaty and not connected anymore.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely connects to the earth.
I actually got to do it for my mother when she was passing, and my niece did do a video of that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to attach it to this podcast or not, but I will upload it so that if somebody wanted to see it. So she had a harpist come. And there are music therapists who do when people are passing in like the hospital or through hospice, they will arrange to have a music therapist come in. And this is somebody who has studied the theology of music along with the breath and the heartbeat. So she played the harp differently than I'd ever had anybody play the harp while I was doing it before, who was a music therapist. So it kind of threw me off a little bit in the video. It's not as smooth as it normally would be, because it's like she waited till I was in the chakra and then went, and it's kind of like, instead of just playing a flowing song. So for me, that wasn't as great of an experience as what I would have liked to do for my mother.
What can someone generally expect when they have a music therapist and you're doing something like that?
Same thing. It's just calming and relaxing, and it helps the family members who are present too to also kind of calm down and relax, because when somebody's imminently passing, it's a pretty
it's not pretty. I mean, it's death. And if you've never experienced that, whether out in the wild or as a healthcare worker, I mean, every time you experience it, it's just not pretty, but it comes for all of us. And however we can go out and make them most comfortable is going to be like what we're trying to do. So,
yeah. And so it can be a very beautiful thing when you have that harpist there. And if you have an energy worker who can do something like this, it really puts the family at ease too, because they see how relaxed their family member gets and just the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was able to do it for my father also when he was passing, and as well as forgiving him on his deathbed, which, and asking him to forgive me, which, not a lot of people will do. But he was in a coma and a tear rolled down his eye when I asked him to forgive me as well.
Wow.
And so that was very, very powerful and moving as well.
And it seems like it helped in that moment. Okay. That's awesome. I didn't know that there was musical therapists like that.
Yeah.
So I might have to start utilizing that for some of like the hospice patients that I come across.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
And they love to come out and do it too.
Yeah.
So after I did the chakra spread, my mom actually hung on for a few more days. And so she kind of went into a semi-coma on a Tuesday morning. And on Thursday, when my daughter was with me at her house, and I was asleep, and I got up, and my daughter had told me about a dream she had had where she heard the cat meowing, and she came out, and I wasn't at my mom's bedside, which I had been for the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
And the cat was meowing because I wasn't there, and she saw this glowing orange light around my mom. And she's like, okay, well, Goldie's got her. I'm going to go back to sleep. And then she woke up again because she heard another cat yowling. This is all in her dream. This didn't actually happen, but it was in her dream. And so she came back out, and the cat wasn't there, and I wasn't there, and the glowing light was there, and she thought Mom was passing, and that I wasn't there, and I was going to be mad because I wasn't at her bedside.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the whole ceiling opened up, and all of our relatives were looking down, and my mother's whole body went up into the sky. And so that was a very interesting.
Yeah. Especially like during that time. This was her dream, you said?
Yes. And so later that day, I went back to where my mom's bedroom, because that's where my daughter was sleeping, and she had been going through her jewelry because my mom had said she could have her jewelry, all except my great-grandmother's ring.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter holds up her hand and says, "Oh, what's this?" And she was wearing my great-grandmother's ring. And I said, the one thing you can't have. And so I took it, and so I wouldn't lose it, I put it on my ring finger on my receptive hand. Now, my nephew, two of my nephews at two separate times, and I had already sensed my grandmother and my grandfather there, her parents. My Uncle Pete, who had died when I was about 5, and her first girlfriend, or her girlfriend from when I was 4, 5, and 6, who had taken herself out of the picture.
Oh, wow.
And I have never been able to tell who spirits were before that, but I knew those four were there.
Just all of a sudden, you could feel it?
They were there before she even went into the coma part of it. They were there to help her. And Lynn was there. That was her girlfriend. She was there to apologize and to make amends for doing that in front of her.
And how did you feel that was why she was there? Did you
okay, so I've been watching a lot of videos lately because, as you know, I have quite a few different psychic gifts, just as you do. And I never really thought of it as channeling because I have heard people talk to me before a couple of times, but generally it's just this, I just know all of a sudden. And some of the major channelers that I've been watching say that that's exactly what it is. All of a sudden you just have this knowing, and it's an absolute knowing. Yeah. And so I was able to tell my mom before she went into that coma that Lynn was there to try and make amends, which of course my mom wasn't very receptive to that at the time. But anyway, so I put on my great-grandmother's ring, and I went and I sat in the recliner next to my mom, and all of a sudden I got this vibrational feeling up above my crown, and it came down like a band, and the tingling, goosebumpy thing just kind of came down in a band all the way to my feet, and then pop, oh my gosh, there's Aunt Mary Lou. And this happened to me about 6 times, 7 times before my cousin showed up, who's the daughter of Aunt Mary Lou and Uncle Pete. And so then my cousin was there and witnessed it happen a total of 13 times.
13 people came through you.
12 relatives came through me. I don't know what the last thing that came through me was. The only thing I can say is my mother was Christian, and it felt like either Jesus or the Holy Spirit, because it hurt. The energy was so high, it hurt.
Oh, wow.
But as it got to my heart, I just started bawling.
That's amazing, Sheri. Are you okay? Okay. I know this can be kind of challenging to talk about, but I appreciate you talking about it. It seems like it was a big thing that happened. Now, after they came through, did they speak to you? Did they say anything?
No.
Did you feel like they wanted to say anything? Were they just there to watch?
They were just there for her. At one point, I did look over at my cousin and say, how are you feeling right now? Because even though I don't see spirits, I had this image suddenly in my head of my great-grandmother who I'd never met with her arm around my cousin's shoulders. And she says, really calm, actually. I said, great-grandma's got her arm around you. And she was like, well, that makes sense, because she was always the one who would calm me down.
Oh.
And the night before, her dad had hugged her, and I was able to tell her that too, because I had seen that like in my mind's eye. It's like not like I could look at my cousin and see the spirit hugging her, but in my mind's eye, I could see it. And so, I've learned a lot about psychic gifts over the last 3.5 years from all this too.
That's awesome.
But they were all there. And then, I was a bit sleep deprived. And so as a nurse, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just imagining all this because I'm really sleep deprived. But then the hospice nurse came through about a couple hours after the last spirit came through. By the way, after the 13th one, I moved the ring to my non-receptive hand. I was like, that's it. That one hurt. I'm done being the gate.
Yeah.
But the hospice nurse came through and she looked around the room and she goes, your mom was really well loved, because there are so many people in this room, and I am not talking about those of you sitting in the chairs. And she proceeded to tell me there were 17 spirits in the room.
Wow.
And so, confirmation that really did actually happen to me. Time. Well, I want to backtrack just a little bit because the boogeyman is in our name because we do paranormal investigation and we do work with spirits, and both of our abilities have grown exponentially since we became friends and started hanging out. It's like a catalyst when you get around people that I would consider my soul group because we just resonated from the minute we got together, which unfortunately...
Before I even met you, people were talking about, you've got to meet Sheri. You guys are like peas in the pod.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was so excited to meet you.
I'm getting goosebumps when you're talking about it. So that's why the boogeyman is in our name, is because we do paranormal investigation and we work with spirits.
Which can be kind of boogeyman-ish to people who don't understand.
Yes. Well, I mean, I have had some things come through that I have had to banish. Yeah. Because people, when you're open, when your light is shining, it attracts things. I don't know if they're spirits. I don't know if they're demons. I don't know if they're angels. I don't know if they're just multidimensional beings. Yeah. Because I have noticed that it seems like the veil between worlds is really getting thin because more and more people are coming out and having psychic abilities happen and interacting with things.
They're awakening, as they say, right? Yes. And we're raising the vibration.
Right. So then I also learned more about spirit guides because when you end up having things walk through you, or when I start to talk to somebody and all of a sudden I'm telling them information that I have no idea where it's coming from, I got very curious as to, and my assumption, I learned about spirit guides when I started learning healing touch, because they come and they help do energy work on people too. Barbara Brennan has a great picture in her book. Maybe I'll try to snap a picture of it and add it to the video portion of the podcast that shows these other beings around you helping you work on people. And so I got a hemisync from the Robert Monroe Institute.
What's a hemisync?
Hemisync is a type of audio where it's going to play different things in each ear at different times to help synchronize the two sides of your brain to go cross over the corpus callosum.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that.
Yeah. And so I got a bunch of them on Spirit Guides by Susan Guzerman. I can't pronounce it right. I have it in here, though. Geierman? Anyway. And she has, first she takes you through some basic meditation so that you can kind of learn. Then she takes you through some deeper meditations where you actually integrate with a light being in that meditation. And then she has the next set of audios she has connecting with your guides. And she actually has you meet 5 at a time. And the first thing she does is she has you have them step out of your energy field so that you can feel what it's like to not have them in your energy field, which is really weird.
Yeah, I've not done that yet. How did that feel?
Yeah, weird. That's all I can say is it was weird. It was like lonely almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she has you invite each different one in separately so you can feel what the energy of that particular guide feels like. And so this little girl that used to be my spirit guide, or I don't know what she was, for a time of my life, I thought it was just an imaginary friend. But this little girl that looked very much like me used to hang out with me when I was like 4, 5, and 6 years old. And my mom could even hear us having conversations, so she could hear both sides of it.
Oh, wow.
And she was, it was very interesting because in my dreams, she would take me different places. Like she took me to a place where there was a frog king and I could swim underwater for hours. And it was really cool.
That is cool.
And I'm sure it was probably another place. Mm-hmm. Now that I've gone through the things that I've gone through, It wasn't just a dream. And then after losing my uncle and Lynn, she took me on a train to heaven.
Oh, wow.
Although I think it was more to purgatory.
Oh, okay.
Because it was this long, long, long hallway, and there were thousands and thousands of people there. And eventually we came upon my uncle, and he was fine. And then we came upon Lynn, and she was fine. Mm. And that was to show me that they're okay. Yes, they're gone from the physical plane, but they're okay. And then I never saw her again.
Did they recognize you when you were there?
It's really hard to remember because I was like 6 years old at the time, but I suspect that they did. And so she was one of the guides on the stage, though. And I now know her name is Emily because she told me her name.
The little girl?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm not sure which type of guide she is for me, other than she's probably one of my spiritual guides, because who else would take me to other dimensions?
Especially when you were small, like a little girl and needing that help.
Yeah.
And she was there for you.
Right. And I mean, we'll get into my long traumatic story at some point, but I didn't have a great childhood. Not that anybody really actually does, but I think she was there to help me through that. And then another one of my guides was my dog Trish that I had from age, third grade. I would have been 9, 10 years old until I was 21. And Trish was like my best friend because I was a picked on kid. I think you kind of experienced some of that too.
Yeah.
And she just went with me everywhere. I mean, even at the playground, she climbed up the stairs to the slide and would slide down behind me.
That's awesome.
And she'd get up on the roof and bark at people. And she would climb a ladder to get onto the roof.
Yeah.
Getting her off the roof, that was a whole nother story because she was a white German Shepherd. So she was not a small dog.
Yeah.
And she was just my constant companion. She slept in the bed with me. And one day on one of my birthdays, it must have been 11 or 12. I was riding my bike and she was running on the street next to me and a car hit her and she happened to be pregnant.
Oh, geez.
And so I went back to the house and I was sitting on the couch and she jumped up on the couch and she laid on me and she gave birth in my lap. And unfortunately, a couple of the puppies didn't make it because of the damage from the car accident. But
did she survive?
Oh, yeah, she survived. But that just shows the trust that she had in me as well. That she would do that. Another one was an Arcturian named Lemura, I think. Luana, and beautiful blue. And I've done a few of the starseed tests that show I'm actually Arcturian, possibly a little bit of Palladian too, somewhere in there. And that's going to lead into another story because I had an interaction with some aliens at one point. So
we'll talk about that later.
We'll get there.
Definitely.
Again, more boogeyman type things because it's just the weird and the unusual. And then there was another alien that I didn't quite get his name, and I'm not sure what type he was. Because it wasn't one that I've recognized. And then I'm trying to remember because I can't look at my phone for my list. Anyway, there were 5 of them. When I called her forward to come back into my energy field, it made me really, really happy though, because I had been feeling something on the bed when I would go to bed, and I didn't know exactly what it was for a very long time. And when I called her back into my energy field, that was the feeling, like it was an animal climbing onto the bed.
That's so sweet.
And so she is my joy, my joy guide. So we have multiple guides that help us throughout our lifetime. We're both nurses. We have a guide that helps us with our nursing care.
I hope so.
And pretty much anything else. Like I'm sure we have one here that is also for doing a podcast.
Yep. Yeah. We hope you're enjoying the content so far. It would mean the world to us if you would like, comment, or subscribe. And we would love to hear from you on topics we should cover.
And back to the program. Okay, so where were we before the doorbell rang?
I was actually going to ask, you talked about your spirit guides earlier, and you said something like Arcturian. What is that?
So Arcturians are a multi-dimensional race that I believe exists in the 9th dimension. They have blue skin and large eyes. They are highly evolved spiritual beings, and they project their consciousness down here. It's really hard for them to actually come down here because they have to lower their vibrational rate so much. Although I have had them come in and interact with me at one point. They're here to help us evolve and to make it to the 5th dimension. Because not everybody probably realizes this, but there is a theory that Earth is trying to move from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension. And that's why a lot of people are spiritually awakening, especially at this time. Because if you don't spiritually awaken and raise your vibrational level, when it does switch to 3D, then you're going to be left behind. Oh, wait, isn't that a movie? Couldn't that be something similar to the Rapture? So, yeah.
Maybe in a different way, though.
In a different way. So there, you see a lot of messages from them on YouTube, just like you do with the Palladians. But they're, one of the highest evolved races from what I've been reading.
So when you saw the spirit guide, did you automatically know what it was, or did it tell you like telepathically? How did you know what that was?
I knew because I'd already been looking into Arcturians because I took that starseed test.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been very curious about the Arcturians and the Palladians. And Palladians look more like us.
Oh, okay.
So they actually probably could even be on Earth interacting with people directly
Maybe,
at this point.
do you think they have like an uncanny valley type look where they look human-ish, but maybe not all the way?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they look blonde, blue-eyed for the most part.
Interesting.
So
Almost like Swedish people,
like
I guess.
the Aryan race.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're also here to help us evolve and to try and bring peace. But, the thing with alien races, other than the negative ones that you hear about, like the reptilians or the draconians, we could do a whole podcast just on alien species, but it's already been done by other people. So if you're really curious about aliens, there's plenty of YouTube videos on that. But for the most part, there are aliens that are here to help us, but they can't interfere directly. It's one of those things where you have to call them in and ask. Just like with healing touch. I can't just do healing touch on somebody without their permission. I have to have their permission. So if it's a being that's trying to interact with you and doesn't have your permission, it's probably not here for a good reason. But the Arcturians are here to try and help us. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think you've had some experience with, a little bit of experience with your spirit guides.
Yeah, I think I really want to try what you did though. And I think that you've sent me that link, so I'm going to try to do some meditations and some work in that way. But when I first started trying to contact my spirit guides, I still have not met probably a little bit of what I have, to be honest. Because I've seen so many things, I've read so many things where the spirit guides are kind of like, they can be there for you. They're kind of always around, but like you said, you definitely have to do your own due diligence and your work and call them in and ask us to work with them, because they are their own beings as well. But when I first saw mine, I was doing some meditation, and I remember, I don't know if I was trying to astral project. I think maybe I was trying to do that for the first time, and that is something that I've been working on. But I remember seeing this like little boy that was orange, and I remember him kind of looking over at me. And again, I was trying to astral project, and so I'm seeing him kind of like in my mind's eye. And I remember him looking over at me, and beyond him, I could see the blackness almost of like space, right? And he was looking over at me, and I don't know why or how I knew, but I just knew. And he was my spirit guide. He was one of them. I don't know his name, but he was a phoenix, and he turned into a phoenix from the little boy. And then he turned back into the little boy from the phoenix, looked back over at me, and kind of like was beckoning me, like, come on, we can do this. We can go into the astral plane, because I was wanting to do that. And I had called on my spirit guides to help me. Since then, I have not seen him. And I feel like he was kind of a catalyst of me feeling and seeing my spirit guides. And then later on, when I was doing a little bit more deeper dive in meditation, and again, just doing another spirit guide meditation, I did meet a spirit guide that when I first, I say her, but this is not necessarily gender specific, but that's how I saw her, is that she was one of my spirit guides. She was small. She was probably about maybe up to my waist height. And she looked kind of like a tall, thin blob, as much as I can say, with little blobby hands and fingers. And in my mind, she's kind of like a pearlescent purple, and just kind of like lights up and stuff. And then I remember her telling me that her name was Prim. And so I've been working with her recently. And when I do like any tarot or meditation, I kind of ask my spirit guides, my guardian angels, and then I'm also saying, hey, Prim, can you kind of also come over here and just kind of help? And, if I'm doing meditation, I'm always asking them to come around to me and just offer their guidance, but also like for that protection too, for my highest good. that's what I've been seeing for my spirit guides. Now, I want to learn more, and I would love to do that, exercise that you did, so I could see and feel who they are and what they are and who's for me.
It's
so
a
that's my
meditation
story.
we could actually both be wearing headphones and do at the same time too.
That would be cool.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Orange spirit guide, typically associated with energy, creativity, enthusiasm, and a playful, lighthearted approach to life.
That's what it felt like. He felt like, again, how Phoenix, the symbolism is death but rebirth. And it almost felt like I was dying my old life of not really knowing and kind of being birthed into this spiritual world. And I was too scared at the time. He was beckoning me, and I was like, I could feel my astral body coming out of my real body, and I got immediately scared. And that fear, basically, I felt like 1,000 pounds, like my spirit had went ka-thunk right back into my body, and I felt like 1,000 pounds again.
I don't know if I've said it before in the podcast, but one of my things that I say all the time is fear is the detriment to life.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you fear everything, you're going to stay in this little comfort bubble.
Yep.
And there's no growth that can happen.
Exactly.
You have to be willing to experience new things, even if you're afraid of them.
Yes.
The only place fear has is when you're actually in a life or death situation. And then your autonomic nervous system's going to kick in and give you the adrenaline and things you need to deal with that. But this goes on to say that often encouraging you to embrace your passions and express yourself freely, drawing from positive aspects of the color orange, which is linked to your sacral chakra. And so, you got to try and bring that one back and work with it some more, because it's trying to help you in your spiritual growth.
I believe so too. And I've been wanting to meet him again for like the longest time. I felt so, not bad, but I just felt like I could have done so much more if I wasn't so afraid. And of course, that goes back into a lot of just trauma and stuff that you go through when you're a kid. But
I mean, I was raised kind of Christian also, and it's sad because they want to keep you ignorant. And so they tell you it's evil to look into any of this kind of stuff. When in fact this is the only way to grow.
Yeah.
If your belief system is Christian and it's working for you, that's great.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't working for me. I was seeing hypocrites. I was seeing things that didn't make sense to me. And especially when you grow up and you are spiritually gifted, you have to explore these things in order to know to not feel crazy. Yeah. Honestly, not feel crazy. Okay. That's going to be the end of that part of it. And just like we promised you in our last podcast, let's talk about the strange things that we see come in through the ER.
And more specifically, things that maybe we have to take out of people.
Yes. It never amazes me that when people come into the ER and they've put strange things where people don't normally put things, why they lie about it. I know it's probably embarrassment, but one patient came through the ER and he had to go to surgery to remove a 9-inch dildo from his transverse colon, but he fell on it. I'm not exactly sure how he thought we would believe that you fell on a 9-inch dildo and it got all the way up into your transverse colon, which it can, because your intestines can pull things with peristalsis, but I don't know how you could fall and 9 inches went all the way in and up far enough for the traction to pull it. But yeah, sure.
I mean, to be honest though, of things that you could pull out of someone's butt, I feel like a dildo is probably like up there as number one. Are there any other things that you feel like are interesting?
Shot glasses. And it's always the big, they put the small end in first, And of course, you've got that open rim, so you can't get a grip on it to pull it back. And so they come in because this shot glass is stuck up in their rectum.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
Yeah. But probably the worst thing I ever saw, and this is actually really sad, and this is why I want to say, it doesn't matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
Just come in.
Yes.
Let us take care of you, because this little old man had heard about a cock ring. So if you don't know what a cock ring is, it is a band that you put around the balls and the cock to prevent ejaculation and to sustain a longer erection.
Yeah.
Well, he was too embarrassed to go to a sex shop and buy one. And so he had used the handles to a pair of scissors.
Oh my God.
And it got stuck.
Oh my God.
But worse, he waited 2 days to come in because he thought, the swelling might go down and he might be able to. And by then, he almost had gangrene.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, it's funny what some people, come into the emergency room for. But seriously, that could have been life-threatening. And I don't remember. He may have lost his testicles over it. But
yeah, probably.
But he almost lost his entire organ because of being too embarrassed or ashamed to come in and get it taken care of. It's less embarrassing to go buy the cock ring at the adult store than it is to use a household item.
Yeah, please don't. Just please don't. If you have questions about it, ask your nurse. Ask your doctor. They have seen or heard it all. I'm assuring you. So,
and then, little furry animals have occasionally been found dead in people's rectums. Another, not a great scenario. Actually, I'm going to tell a personal story, and this one's really embarrassing. So when I was younger, strip clubs, they used to have girls that could pick up dollar bills with their crotch. And I was dating somebody who wanted me to try it, but he rolled it into a little roll for me to actually pick it up with my vagina. Only as I got down there, he shoved and it went into my urethra.
Oh my God.
Which, very weird. Almost felt like an orgasm, but at the same time, I pissed all over.
Oh, geez.
So that was really embarrassing. And I had to go to the emergency room and I had to get on pyridium because I got a paper cut in my urethra from it.
Oh my God. That must have been so painful.
So yeah, it was. That was definitely not a pleasant thing. So, also don't try things that you see in videos without really knowing what you're doing. Because that definitely was not a pleasant experience for me, and probably not for him either, since that was his pace.
Oh my goodness.
But there are things that come through the ER that are also abuses.
Yeah.
And one poor lady came in because her boyfriend had stuck a small plastic tube up her urethra, and it had gotten away from him. And it had migrated almost all the way up to her kidney, and they had to surgically remove that.
That is so upsetting. I mean, I hope that people at home, and even those who are not in the medical field, your urethra, which is, the pee hole, is not supposed to have things go up it. So you can imagine how painful that must have been for this woman.
Yeah. I believe it was actually a form of torture in this case because they ended up calling the police.
Good. That's awful.
But yeah, if you're going to put things up there and they get stuck, just come in and tell us, hey, we were playing, it got stuck. We're not going to judge you. We don't care. But when you lie to us, it sometimes takes us longer to realize what's going on. And that can cause you to have more trauma to your system rather than just coming in and saying, well, whoops.
Yeah.
Also, please never use a pop bottle on a woman's vagina. Ever, ever, ever. It will get a suction and you will make them prolapse. Their uterus will get pulled out by it.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It is.
My God. You've seen this as well?
Yep.
A pop, and for those of us who are maybe from the South, that's a soda bottle.
Yeah.
Okay, just don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Never. Never, ever, ever, ever.
I mean, I wouldn't think someone would, but I guess someone has, so.
Yes.
And PSA, if you are going to stick anything up there, make sure it has a lip around.
Or a string
Yeah,
that you can pull on.
exactly.
Some way to get it to come back out.
Yeah, don't be using shampoo bottles or any of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
either,
shampoo
people.
bottle would be the same thing. Anything that's got the ability to get a suction, you do not want to put it up the vagina.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Okay, well that's going to be it for this time, and we'll see you soon. We'll continue to talk more about spiritual growth. I think we wanted to talk about the Hat Man in one of our podcasts because we actually found one at our hospital when we were working together. So tune in next time for that story. Until then, stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us to the end of the podcast.
All right. We hope to see you with us next time. Please like, comment, or subscribe.
Until then,
stay safe.
Creeping down the hall with our flashlights gleam. Hear that IV drip, it's a spooky theme. Whispers of the night like a doctor's dream. Grooving with the ghosts, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, shift's almost over but we ain't slowing. Tales of the ward forever growing. Pump up that beat, keep the stories flowing. From scrubs to scares, we keep glowing. Ooh la la la. Bed Pans